Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're waiting for a few more people to enter, but as an introduction, I want to first thank Jason Lee for agreeing to do this. He's a lovely young man. Welcome to the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center's cooking program with Chef Jason Lee. My name is Andrea Bolander, and I'm the chairperson of the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center located in Glen Cove, New York. As many of you know, our mission is not only to teach about the history of the Holocaust, but to combat racism and all manifestations of intolerance, to promote resistance to prejudice, and to advocate respect for every human being. This evening, we hope to not just focus on food, but to focus on a bridge, on a cultural bridge to the Chinese community, and promote not only tolerance, but a warm and nurturing embrace of a community that has horribly suffered through a recent wave of anti-Chinese attacks. Through food, we can often find connections between cultures and backgrounds. We hope this program will offer a small window through which we can find some of those connections and share some of those commonalities. We are honored to have with us tonight the chef and owner of Long Island Pekin, a super amazing restaurant that has opened in Babylon Village in 2019 and quickly became a draw for its famous crispy Peking duck and a range of other delicacies, including our Scallion Pancakes. Chef Lee brings to his restaurant a wealth of experience that is belied by his very youthful looks. Almost 20 years ago, he and his family opened their first restaurant, Philippe, which grew to include 8 locations across the country before they sold the business. He then opened another successful restaurant called Red Sticks in Midtown, but in 2015 decided it was time to move to Long Island, opening Kenta in Melville in 2015, and then Long Island Pekin 4 years later. Tonight he is going to show us how to make his amazing scallion pancakes and his delicious soy dipping sauce. So I'd like to welcome to our virtual screen, Jason Lee. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. And I'll give you the camera.
Okay, let me see. Am I on? Okay, all right, there I am. I can't see anybody. We're good? Okay, I'm gonna start.
Looking good.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Jason Lee. Andrea just gave me a wonderful introduction. I'm here along with a lot of people tonight to support a fantastic nonprofit organization, the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center. They teach a wide range of things. I mean, I'm a big fan of anti-bullying, so I'm all for it. And tonight, I just want to kind of start off with something simple. The Scallion Pancake, although can sound complicated, it's actually very simple, and I want everybody who's always wanted to work with flour maybe now has a chance to work with flour because it's so easy to get into. And then if cake or pizza or other sorts of doughs with yeast and rising sound daunting, let's start with this. You're going to get comfortable and familiar with it. And the Scallion Pancake is simple, nimble, and impressive. So if you haven't had it, you're going to enjoy it. And the best part is that it's vegan and it can be gluten-free. I'm going to talk about the substitutions later. So if there are no objections, I'm going to get into it. I don't know if we have to wait for more people. I really can't see anybody. But rest assured, this is going to be recorded and put up on the website and on YouTube, so you can always reference this back. And we're going to open this up to a Q&A at the end. So let's get into it. Okay. We're going to start with 300 grams of flour. That's 2.5 cups. I always like to weigh my flour. So 300 grams into a bowl. If anybody is following along as I'm going in real time, Again, if I'm going too fast, I apologize that I can't see you or stop myself from going too fast. I'll try to go at a steady pace, but again, this will be recorded. Okay, 300 grams. And we're just starting with literally 2 ingredients. 3 if you count water. But here's a teaspoon of salt that goes in here. You're gonna grab a fork and just mix it. And here's a little trick. We're gonna have half a cup of boiling water and a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup of cool water or room temperature water. Let me get my boiling water. If you have a kettle, this helps. And just start drizzling this in here while mixing with a fork. Now, why are we using boiling water? A lot of you might be asking. The boiling water actually gelatinizes the proteins in the flour, and it's good for making a fluffy bread. If you ever go to a Korean bakery, Chinese bakery, it's actually very popular in Asian cooking or Asian baking. You'll find it in all Asian cultures where the bread is super soft, and it actually brings out a little bit of sweetness too, because it translates a lot of the proteins into sugar. So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna take our fork and we're gonna keep cutting the dough. Just work downward while turning the bowl. We want all this dry flour to kind of incorporate before we add our cold water. Keep working it.
Jason, how much water are you putting in there?
That was 1/2 cup of boiling water. And then we're just working it to see how much water, because it's gonna be a 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of cool water. We don't wanna just dump it in, because you don't want a wet, sticky dough. You want a dough that just comes together. And I'll show you what I mean. Okay, keep working it, keep working it. So a lot of this is just elbow grease. Nothing's too complicated right now, but if you need to put some muscle into it, and you don't want to do this by hand, and you have a mixer, a stand mixer, you definitely could do it in a stand mixer with your dough attachment. Okay, so now you see all this like flaky dough, which is what we want. You see that? Okay, but then you also see that there's still some dry flour here. Not too much, but there's enough. We just want to add a little bit of the room temperature cool water to the edge. Let's just start with the 1/4 cup, because I know we're going to need that amount. And again, work it in, and you don't want a wet, gummy dough. You just want it to come together. Okay, now the dough's starting to pull from the walls and into the center. Just gonna add a little bit more water. And I've used about, just a little bit over a 1/4 cup of the cool water. Okay. Once you see all the dough pulling away from the bowl, you can start using your fingertips and start bringing it together. It's not too wet. It's definitely not dry. And you start grabbing it and just wiping all the dough from the wall. And then turn it out. You don't even need to flour your surface. Just start kneading. We're gonna do this for about 5 minutes. If you have time with me, you could do it. It's actually pretty therapeutic. And you don't need a lot of strength. You just got to keep it moving, because you just want those little pieces to come together. And it's all about the moisture reincorporating evenly into the dough. Don't worry if it gets sticky on the board. It'll start drying up as you start kneading more and more. It's a good time to talk about what the scallion pancake actually represents. I mean, nobody really knows how far it dates back, which tells me, you know, a few things, really. There was no grand culinary event or restaurant that invented it. I mean, it was just farmers and peasants trying to stretch out their ingredients, being resourceful, trying to feed their families. And you're going to find that same commonality throughout the world. I mean, as much as everybody thinks we're different, we all started the same. It's just getting by. And you'll see scallion pancakes in China, lavash, roti, pizza, you know, all these flatbreads. You got the pita in Greece. I mean, they didn't have Instagram. They didn't have social media to let us know what they were doing across the world. So it just was a natural thing. Food really just tells us that we're all the same. I mean, you could see already, I haven't kneaded it for 5 minutes, but you can see that the dough is coming together, it's smoothing out. Just keep going. If it looks like I'm doing it really hard, I'm really not. I mean, I'm just folding it back and pushing it forward. Oops, pushing it forward. Okay. Then you're just going to keep working it into a ball. And there it is. This is your dough that needs to rest anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour, I would say. But I'm going to cheat a little bit. I actually have one that's rested for over an hour. You're going to saran wrap this. And it just stays on the side. And why do we let it rest? We want that moisture to reincorporate into the dough evenly. Okay. But let's just say you're following along right now and your dough is resting. I'm going to give you a few seconds while I wash my hands. Let that dough rest, put it in saran wrap, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so besides letting your dough rest, there's a few things we could do. We're gonna make our sauce. We're gonna cut up the scallions. I'm gonna show you some variations. Oh, and the dough, the flour. If you are gluten-free or you wanna make a gluten-free scallion pancake, you could use brown rice flour, chickpea flour, almond flour. I would stay away from like coconut flour or flours that don't have much protein in it, because what happens is you're going to get a crumbly dough and you're not going to get that crispy and then chewy layer. You're just going to get something that more like a cracker. So, but if you are using coconut flour or any of the flours that don't have high protein content, you could add things like tapioca starch, still gluten-free, and it gives you that chew. But yeah, chickpea flour, brown rice flour, and almond flour, those are my gluten-free go-tos. Use those. And let's make our sauce. Okay. You're gonna start with a nub of ginger. There's 2 ways of peeling this. And If you go the Asian route, my mom showed me and loves this way the best. She uses a spoon and starts scraping the skin. And she loves this because it starts bruising the ginger and starts to release its flavor. I personally don't like this because then it just makes like a mess and it's hard to reuse this stuff. Not hard, not impossible, but it makes it a little bit harder. I like a speed peeler because then you get these lovely strips. And you could use this in ginger tea. You could make some use the speed peeler on lemon or lime and make some lemon ginger tea, which is fine. But the good thing about the spoon is, I'll credit this where it's due, is that it can get in these nooks and crannies. All right, clean. All right, so if you had the list of ingredients in front of you, it was a nub of ginger, a teaspoon of sugar, and then 1 tablespoon of sesame oil, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, and 3 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar. And just literally put it all together. Okay. Bowl. Okay. Let's start with the sugar. That's 1 teaspoon of sugar again. Use a grater. And just start. I would say you need about a tablespoon of ginger. And you could use more if you like. I personally like a lot. But then after a while, it starts getting, it gets a little spicy, but not in a good way. It just burns. So let's stick with a tablespoon of ginger. It's easy to remember. 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1 tablespoon of ginger, and then 1 tablespoon of sesame oil, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 3 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar. See that? So the sugar and the ginger's there. There's a little bit of the ginger juice. There it is. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Toasted sesame oil. 1 tablespoon. Soy sauce. 2 tablespoons. And rice wine vinegar, 3 tablespoons. Little whisk or a spoon. And literally that's it. But I personally have changed it up a little bit from my original recipe. This recipe actually was something I learned. It was my first sauce that I learned when I was 8 years old from my aunt. And since then, I've added 2 ingredients that are optional. If you have it this way, it's perfect already. But I like adding some lime zest and bird's eye chili. Okay. and I just zest it in. Because I always buy a big package of bird's eye chili, I have to freeze them. And because they're frozen, I could literally grate them. I just grate them into the sauce. And then when I get to halfway, when I can't grate anymore because I don't want to lose my knuckles, I just chop them up with a knife. Some zest. Okay, I'm gonna just transfer this into a white bowl so you can see what it looks like. It's dark.
Jason, quick question for you.
Yeah.
Can somebody finely chop the ginger, or is grating required? And
You can. I mean,
is there a particular brand of the wine that you use, the rice wine vinegar?
no. So to answer both questions, I grate the ginger because it definitely releases more of the flavor, and you don't have to have like a bite of a chin of ginger if you chop it. With the rice wine vinegar, just make sure it's unseasoned because it comes both ways. I'm just gonna add some more chilies just for some color at the top. There we go. That's the sauce. I'm just gonna let it sit on the side. Okay, so let's talk about the scallion. So your scallion is gonna look like something like this. And in order to not get a big piece of scallion in your mouth, which sometimes could be unpleasant, you're gonna split this in half. Just run your knife downwards on the white part, like that. And then you're just gonna start cutting these. And you really want a sharp knife because if you don't, you end up doing two things. You won't cut through your scallion and you'll just start bruising them. So these little half moon shapes are a little bit easier to just kind of intermingle with your scallion dough. So I'm gonna switch to this side. And in order to save time, this side, I just don't like run my knife through every single one of these. What I do is I take a fork and I just stab it and run it down. Stab it and run it down. That's like having all of them at once. Little chef trick. Okay, let me get rolled. And while I'm here, let's talk substitutions from scallions. Some people might not like scallions. I make all sorts of scallion pancakes, pancakes, if you will. You could use any leafy herb. You could use cilantro, parsley, sage, thyme, rosemary, which I have. And you could also use crushed chilies. You could use fresh chilies. You could use basically anything you want, even dill. I mean, it's gonna be weird, but you can use dill if you really like the taste of dill. So let's make a variation of cilantro and chili.
Another question for you, Jason, just about how spicy are these chilies you're using?
Oh, those are called bird's eye chilies. I'm sorry I didn't mention it. They're pretty spicy, but I feel like every chili has a different type of spice. And bird's eye chili has that aroma of spice without killing your taste buds. They're my favorite chilies to use. I mean, I think some people even call them Thai chilies, but they're called bird's eye chilies. And if you Google them, they can give you the Scoville unit of how hot it is compared to a chili that you're familiar with, like let's say a jalapeno. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I don't know if everybody on here knows, but a lot of people throw away the stalks of cilantro. Actually, anytime I'm using cilantro, I always use the stalks too. I mean, why not? It tastes exactly the same as the leaves, and it adds an extra crunch. Okay. And then just a little bit of chili. This is called a finger chili. It's really mild. And I know that's not actually the name of it, but when I purchase it, they always just say finger chili because it looks like a finger. Here's my cilantro chili mixture that we're going to press into one of our pancakes. So we got scallion, cilantro, and pepper or chili. We're gonna make one more because I know some people are following in real time, so I want them to be able to rest their dough just a little bit longer. And since I have the ingredients, oh, it's right here. Here's a sprig of rosemary. It's like on steroids. This is fresh rosemary. You can use dry rosemary, but I find that fresh rosemary is a little bit more tender, so you don't have to be fighting through woody rosemary pines. That's enough. I'm just gonna rough chop these. Okay, that looks good. And then some lemon zest, rosemary and lemon, best friends. Now, if you're a person who forgets to salt things, like I am sometimes, it may be a good idea to just salt any one of these three: the scallions, the cilantro chili mixture, the rosemary, and lemon zest. If you just add a little bit of salt, you won't forget, and just treat these like seasoning. Okay, let's pause on this a little bit. We have our cilantro chili. We have our classic scallion and our rosemary and lemon zest. Okay. Let's move on to the dough. Now, I am going to use the dough that I rested, but let's show the difference between the rested dough and the naan. Let me just unwrap these. Or not the non-rested dough, just it didn't have as long of a time. You know what? Hold on, let me just wipe this down. Okay. So if you look closely, this dough right here is rested properly. You can see this, it's smooth. It looks like it has time to rest. The gluten's not all tight. This one still has a lot of the craters in it. And that's just basically what it does. You know, it just, it allows the dough to kind of just relax. I'm gonna put this back on the side, and we're gonna be working with this. Simply, we're gonna knead it just for 30 more seconds. I know it's just a lot of kneading. And even at this point, it starts to feel like a Play-Doh. It's really nice. Okay. So at this point, we're going to divide this. And it is, I like to divide it into 4 to 6 pieces. I don't like my scallion pancakes too large. The traditional is like anywhere from 10 to 12 inches in diameter. I like it more on the like 7 and 8 inch diameter. It just gives it a little bit more surface area, and you don't need it that big. Once you've rolled it out into a log, that's when you're going to start separating it. Down the middle. So get these pieces right here. Now, this next step might be controversial or counterintuitive to a lot of people, but this dough uses a lot of oil in the cooking process. So why not just skip the rolling pin? Anytime I have a chance to skip the rolling pin, I always do. I use oil, and I didn't invent this, but a lot of chefs use this, and I'm one of them. I just take vegetable oil. I oil up my hands a little bit. And I oil the surface just a tiny bit. And you just get this dough thinned out by rubbing your palm in different directions. This trick is so much better, and I'll tell you why. Because once you flatten the dough out, paper thin, you could actually, the board actually holds it in place. Have you ever worked with like pizza dough or store-bought pizza dough? When you roll it out, it just starts coming back in. And it's because it's like on a floured surface, and it's just so slippery that when the dough's gluten is really high, it just comes back in. I mean, look how thin that is. In parts of it, you could just see through it. and your cutting board will can handle it. It's just a little bit of oil. It's no different than anything else you cut on there with. It's literally just light pressure and pushing outward. See how thin it is? You can see onto my board. And from here, after I just talked trash about flour, we are going to dust it a little bit with flour. Just a little bit, just so it's not so wet, because you do want the scallions to adhere to it, or whatever you're pressing against it. Just spread it. Send a little bit of oil and a little bit of flour, kind of forms this little paste almost, kind of like a roux, like when you thicken a sauce or a soup. So now it's a little dry to the touch. We're gonna start off with our scallions. And here is what I take a page from any pizza chef I know. Use restraint. You don't want to go beyond 3 tablespoons of scallion. More is not better. And you want to work with one side, because you're going to be rolling it again, and it's going to push the scallions forward. That's it for me. You could definitely go more, but I wouldn't go too much more. And what's going to happen right now is we're going to roll it this way like a fruit roll-up, and then we're going to coil it. Okay, so I'll go slowly on this one. Just roll it like a fruit roll-up. The tighter the better, because it doesn't really matter, but the tighter the better, just so you have less air pockets. So there's our fruit roll-up. And then from one end, you're just going to start turning it and making a coil. It's like a little snail. And then you could just pinch this little end right here, pinch it to the scallion pancake itself. You have a little coil. We're going to revisit this, but I want to do a few of these first. And this is how you should be doing them at home as well. Just, you want to do all of them before you start cooking just one, because then your dough will start drying up. But again, for anybody who wants to see it again, oil your surface, oil your hands, and then just press the dough in one direction, press the dough in another direction, and just keep working it outwards. You can see that the dough's even curling, because that gluten just wants to come back to itself. Don't worry about these holes here, because when you do that little fruit roll-up thing, that gets hidden. And scallion pancakes are a rustic dish. You're not making a wedding cake, so you don't need to be perfect. In fact, it tastes better when it looks bad, because of all those nooks and crannies and imperfect edges. They get crispy. All right. A little bit of flour again. Let's go with our cilantro and chili. Or not too much. And we're just going to start rolling again. It's kind of freaking me out that so many people are watching, but I can't hear or see anybody. For all I know, you guys are all cursing me out like, that's not scallion pancake.
Jason, while you're rolling, I'll just raise another question that somebody mentioned, which is about, should the resting dough be resting in the refrigerator or resting at room temperature?
Good question. Good question. It should be resting in room temperature. You know, if you put it in the fridge, it starts to just slow the process down. Everything gets a little bit more thicker in the dough, and that's not how water likes to get incorporated. But yes, definitely room temperature on the counter. And you could leave it up to like 2 hours. It doesn't have to be. But if you're in a rush, 20 minutes is the minimum. We're just going to coil this up just like we did before. And pinch this little end. And you have coil number 2. Third one, we're going to make our rosemary lemon zest. And I'm really curious to know like what people think about this oil method rather than the rolling pin. I mean, I have nothing against the rolling pin, but if there's something that I don't have to wash, one less thing, I'm all for it. Well, this one came out really good. It's all nice and circular. And scallion pancakes are one of those things. It's a knack. You're going to get better as you make more. And after a certain point, you're not going to have to follow a recipe. You can make this stuff on the fly. I mean, if you have 20 minutes to an hour of resting time, but it's great. A little bit of flour again. Don't forget that flour.
Is that olive oil you're using or sesame oil?
It's vegetable oil. You can use olive oil. You can use sesame oil as well. Sesame oil can be a little overpowering because we are going to use it a little bit in the pan when we cook it. But yeah, just use a neutral oil. Or if you want a flavored oil, you can. You know, that's why scallion pancakes or just pancakes in general are great. It's because they're so versatile. Rosemary and lemon zest. Yeah, maybe a little more.
And can these be frozen at any time along this process?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, these can be frozen, and I'm going to tell you which point you should freeze them. So now that we've made our third coil, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make, because who says you need stuffing? You could literally make a plain one and be happy. Yeah, no filling, just roll it up. Actually, to be honest with you, with all this work, with all the fillings and everything, the plain ones are the most popular when you're going to a family gathering. The kids always gravitate towards these. Okay, so let's just say you made a bunch of coils and you have them all here. This is the part where you smush them again. So when we did that roll up, that fruit roll up thing, it made all these layers, one on top of each other. And then now that we coiled it this way, we're going to press it down so all those layers are just going to be on top of each other. Again, oil, both hands. And where I connected it on this side, that little opening, I like to hold it a little bit and then just use my palm to press. I press downward first, and don't worry if anything comes apart or if you see holes, because like I said, scallion pancakes thrive on imperfection. And And let's just say you don't want to, expend so much strength, or you think this is just, just too much. You can use a rolling pin. Definitely not stopping you, just giving you other options. I just prefer this way because it's actually kind of fun. And I have dry hands anyway, so this kind of moisturizes it. Okay. You could take parchment paper, you could take saran wrap, and you'll put this on top. And just let that sit on the side. Put another piece on top. Side, and then work on your next one. And you keep layering them. And then after you've done all that flattening out, that's when you could freeze them. You could freeze them up to 4 months. And then you just bring one out. And the best part of it is you don't have to defrost it to cook it. You could literally take it out of the freezer. It's like one hard disc, and you could just put it on the pan and start cooking it slowly. But I will be showing you without freezing. You can hear a lot of popping noises. Those are the pockets from when you rolled it up and all the air that was stuck in the scallions or between the scallions and the dough.
Jason, while you're flattening, I'll just mention that somebody says that the technique of using vegetable oil is like the way some people make handmade tortillas from El Salvador.
Oh, yeah. There's the other cultural similarity. Yeah, that's fantastic. So this is how they make tortillas, is what somebody said?
Yes, in El Salvador, according to this person.
That's awesome.
Somebody's also asking what brand of flour you use.
I use King Arthur because they have a good mission statement. They're 100% employee owned, and they just have a quality product. So I use King Arthur all-purpose flour, and that's in a red bag. And I also love their bread flour for Scallion Pancakes, which is in a blue bag.
Somebody's adding that this is a similar approach to how you make Indian lacha, the layered paratha.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And in Malaysia, when they make a roti canai, I've seen them do this too, which I just love so much more. Okay. So you have this, all 4, 5, 6, 7, however many that you make, in this nice little stack. You can put this in a Ziploc bag and into the freezer, and they'll be fantastic. Okay, but we are gonna cook all of these, and I'm just gonna show you how easy it is. All right, guys, we're gonna have to move together.
Does it make a difference if you use a dough hook or knead it by hand?
No. I think I mentioned it earlier that if you do have a stand mixer, definitely use a dough hook and just save your wrists the trouble, especially if you have carpal tunnel or arthritis. Definitely a stand mixer is great.
And is the same dough used for these pancakes as you use for wonton or for the pancakes in Peking duck?
No, they're definitely different. This dough is more of, if you were to compare, it starts off the same as bao, the bao pancakes, not the flat pancakes, the fluffy ones. But the crepe style pancakes are literally flour and water and just kneaded and rolled out until it's really thin. No oil at all. Time is eluding us. Can you see this? Okay. Awesome.
Looks good.
Okay. So you want to turn your heat to like a medium. You definitely don't want to go too high because you'll burn the outside while the inside, the middle of the dough is still raw. And you don't want to go too low because you'll just never cook it. You'll never get the color. Okay.
If somebody uses a rolling pin, would they oil their rolling pin in the same way that you oiled your hands?
If you're gonna go with the rolling pin route, I would go flour. You know, if you Google you know, scallion pancakes or any, there's hundreds of recipes. Most of them say flour your surface, flour the scallion pancake, and roll it out with your floured rolling pin. So that's definitely a way. But I find that the scallion pancake gets a little too dry because when you get to the cooking process, if you went the flour route, you're gonna need to add a little bit more oil in the cooking process just so that it could absorb some of that flour and it won't be kind of powdery when you eat it as a mouthfeel. So that's my only suggestion, is that don't be afraid of using oil during the cooking process if you go the flour route. Okay, little bit, tiny bit of toasted sesame oil. Okay, and then mix that with vegetable oil. Now we're just gonna take our scallion pancake, throw it on. I've lost track on which one is which, so I don't even know which one this is. Okay, we're cooking. Don't be afraid of looking. I mean, you might see there's so much oil. We're not counting calories if you're eating scallion pancake, but at the same time, don't worry, it's not all going to be absorbed in it. And afterwards, you could also put it on a paper towel to kind of draw out some of the oil. But great thing about scallion pancakes is that it kind of just has enough moisture in the dough where the steam pushes the oil outwards. So as long as you have moisture in the dough, the oil's not absorbing into your food. And the scallion pancake is one of those things, you want to keep turning it. It's not like a steak where it's 6 minutes on one side and then 6 minutes on the other side. You kind of just want to keep working it. all the time. If you've done it properly, you could see over here on these pancakes, sometimes you'll get these little bubbles. They're really great because these are little air pockets that are trapped, and they get really crispy. So even this, it's starting to grow because there's air right there, there's air right there. And that's why you want to constantly flip it, because you don't want these air bubbles to kind of take over your entire dough. And use a spatula to kind of press it down. You get a little bit more surface area to the pan. Live cooking shows, huh? A lot of dead time. Sorry, guys. Are there any more questions while I'm cooking these, Thorn?
Somebody's asking about sharpening knives and how you sharpen your knives, or if you have any guidance for it.
Yeah, so there's 3 ways I know knives get sharpened among my circle of friends. One of my friends sends them out. It's about $5 a knife, and they get super sharp. And the only suggestion is when you're at home, you got to use a honing steel, like one of these, to kind of just maintain before you cut and after you cut anything. The other way is getting an electric knife sharpener, the ones that are made by Cuisinart or whatever brand, and you just you plug it in. It has rotating kind of stones, and you just run your blade through the kind of valley that it provides. And what I do is I use a whetstone, which has a rougher side and a finer side. So you kind of like draw out more of the metal that you want to shave away on the blade on the rough side, and then on the fine side, it kind of just makes your blade incredibly sharp and straight. But that way takes a little bit more skill. You could either make your knife really sharp, or you could dull your knife even more. So I don't recommend a whetstone in the beginning. I do, if you do want to do it yourself, I recommend the electric knife sharpener route.
How long have you been making these scallion pancakes?
On and off, probably since I was like 11. My aunt showed me. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I don't always make them. I get a lot of store-bought ones. There's a lot of brands that make really great scallion pancakes. So because the recipe is so simple and because they freeze really well, factory-made scallion pancakes taste really good, you know? I mean, the one thing I can say about homemade is that your stuffing, you could really choose whatever you want. You could, if you like more scallions, if you don't like scallions, you could really control that portion of it. And again, it's really impressive. I mean, when you invite friends over and the smell of the scallion pancakes from toasted sesame oil or the lemon zest or the scallions, I mean, it's really, really impressive among friends and family, especially if you're not used to cooking. Just whip this recipe out and you're just going to blow people out of the water. These are pretty much done. Yeah. You see the color? It's just nice golden brown. You can go further if you want, but this is pretty nice and crispy. And then in the middle, it should be flaky and tender. And I want to kind of show you an up-close version of this. Where is it? If I can get my camera 1 right there. You could see, in my camera 1 or 2 right now, Thorin?
Oh.
Yeah, that one right there. You could see this is how thick I like my pancakes. It has a little bit of substance, more like almost like a regular American pancake, you know, because if you go too flat, it's just going to be a potato chip. If you go too thick, it's going to be too doughy. So this is about 1 centimeter thick. That's the way I like it. Feel free to definitely play around with it. I'm going to cut these up while these go into the pan. There's plenty of oil still in these, so I don't even need to re-grease. Okay, so I am going to, what am I going to do? Move you back here.
Somebody's asking if you think it would be possible to put multiple pancakes on a sheet pan covered with hot oil and cook them all at once.
Like in the oven?
In the oven or on a griddle of some sort.
If your sheet pan is, or yeah, if it's like one of those cast iron pans, yeah, definitely, absolutely. And if you have one of those, yeah, professional griddles, you cook, you know, a dozen of these at a time. I'm just using a bunch of pans. I mean, you could also put like 6 pans on the stove and start cooking them, as long as they can fit, and you can cook them all at the same time. Okay, so going back to here, you got this. Okay. You can hear that they're crispy. Ooh, look at that. Oh, this is the chili cilantro one. I mean, crispy. You could see that it's crispy on this portion, chewy in the inside. That's exactly what you want in a scallion pancake. Layers and layers and layers, some crispy, center chewy. Fantastic. This one's good. Plate for you.
Somebody's asking if you could put any vegetables in or even shrimp. Are there limits on what could go inside?
So what I would suggest is don't go with proteins during the fruit roll-up process. You want to go with, let's say, after you make the scallion pancake, kind of like what I do at my restaurant. When the scallion pancake is completed, then you kind of use it as a tortilla and fold things in half. So it's a quesadilla, basically. So when we stuff our Peking duck in our pancake, we just, you know, the circular pancake, we put the meat on one side, the cheese, and the Peking duck sauce, and we fold it over, and then we cut it into 4 pieces after we crisp it up again. So that's where I think you could add your proteins and some of your other vegetables, anything that's not like a delicate herb. I would do it at that point where your scallion pancake has some substance, and you could fold it. Okay. And this is literally what you're dealing with. Everybody see that?
And that's the sauce you made earlier, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's
There we
asking
go.
if they can put in their order for tomorrow.
Yes, you can. We are open. Oh, yeah. I'm double dipping. I'm sorry, but I'm at home alone. So pretty much at this point, we are.
Oops, we lost your audio there.
Okay, can people still hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Thorn?
Yes.
Am I still here? Am I good?
You're
Okay.
good.
Okay. I almost dialed 911. Okay. Q&As.
Thorn, would you like to take the questions?
I think we've gone through all the questions that have come in just while you were cooking.
Nice.
And I think we've gotten pretty much to the end of our time. So
Okay.
we'll just encourage people to let them know that we will send out the full recipe. And,
Yes, I will be sending out the recipe with the substitutions and the variations. Again, if you have questions beyond the Q&A and you have questions just in general when you're making them, you could always DM me, direct message me on my Instagram page. Don't do it at the restaurant page because there's multiple people that manage that page. My Instagram handle is Jason Lee Chef, just JASONLEE Chef, Jason Lee Chef. And you can message me there. I'll answer any and all questions.
Jason, thank you so much for this delicious. We all want to know what time you're open until because I think we're all on our way over.
Okay, well, today we're closed. Tomorrow we're back open.
I encourage all of you to go visit Jason's restaurant. Actually, I've been there several times and that's how we met. And he is the most gracious restaurateur, the most attending chef that I have ever had the pleasure to meet. And
Thank you.
his food is absolutely amazing. And I've had Peking duck in China, and this was much, much better. So I'm going to encourage you to visit Babylon Village and visit Long Island Pekin. And hopefully one day you'll be seeing Jason on his own TV show. I think you're a natural. And I just thank everyone for attending. And I thank you, Jason, for agreeing to do this. I know this is a very new thing during Zoom and you're very busy at work, but we totally appreciate you bringing us into your kitchen and making it our kitchen for the night.
It's my pleasure. And if you get a lot of requests on something that everybody wants to watch or just any of the basics, I am happy to do another one of these or a series of these.
That would be amazing. I did see your original pancake one, and I never knew from one batter you could make so many different things. And that was what really grabbed me. I said, wow, this guy has star power. And I appreciate really your willingness to come out and do this. It comes at a time when life is very difficult for a lot of people and food equals love. So hopefully we brought you guys a lot of love tonight, and we continue to try to educate you, engage you, bring you into the community. If you liked what you saw and you'd like to continue seeing programs like this, I believe Thorn had put up the slide. You can text DUCK to 516-219-1007. And thank you, Jason. I think we will be taking you up on your offer to do another segment.
Okay.
I just have to look at your menu and decide what I think everyone's going to love, because it's very hard to decide. When you go, and all of you must go, bring your friends, because it's a great place to share. And
Absolutely.
guarantee you'll have a good time. Jason, did you have any outdoor seating during the summer?
We did have outdoor seating. It was kind of just the town allowed us to do it, actually invited us to do it. Normally, under regular circumstances, we're not allowed to, just because of permitting laws and egress and bathrooms. But that was a 2020 COVID-19 thing where they allowed us to. I don't know if they're going to let us do it next summer or this summer.
Someone just commented that your curbside pickup is flawless.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we do have people on here that have already visited your restaurant. Someone said they were there Saturday. Everything was terrific. A good one.
Saturday too. Nice.
And people are saying, thank you. They're starving. This looks delicious. Thank you for this awesome cooking session. I did write that that if they want to pick up frozen, H Mart does have a good selection. So thank you for giving
True.
even fast food Chinese a plug, because I bought them myself and done a little cheat on those kind of things.
Yeah.
But this was really a lot of fun. And I think the truth is we all have a lot of excess energy these days. And I have been baking bread, and I think kneading is definitely a way to get out some of that tension. So everyone, happy cooking. Someone said Jason is the best. He's so personable. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
You're
guys.
getting lots
Thank
and
you.
lots and lots of love, Jason. And we haven't even seen your little one yet. So when you see him.
Oh, you want to see him? Does everybody want to see him right now?
I think everyone would love to
He's
see
right
your
here.
little prince.
Here it is. Hi, world.
Hi, world. Hi, Rain. This is beautiful little Rain, and he is Daddy's able assistant, and I'm hopefully he'll be given some scallion pancakes to munch on. And
Yes.
everyone is, oh my God, adorable. You may even get some babysitting offers
Please.
right now here because
Please.
listen,
Send your
you just-
resumes to Long Island Pekin.
you just got Jason is one class act.
Thank you, guys.
And you are getting a lot of love from all of these panelists, and you certainly have a lot of love from HMTC. We appreciate your time. We know it's precious and that restaurateurs work crazy hours. So thank you. And I hope everyone enjoyed. And Rain, have a nice weekend. And thank you,
Bye.
Jason. And I
Thank
will
you.
likely see you in person very soon.
Please, please. And it's 1,000% my pleasure. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining me.
Everyone who goes to Jason's restaurant will feel like they're in their home.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming into our home tonight.
Thank you.
And again, this was wonderful. Thank you, Thorin. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you for all the wonderful tech people who do this. And again, thank you, Jason, and have a wonderful evening. Bye, Rain.
Bye. Good night, guys.
Good night.